I don't know what the PC word. There was like 5 or 6 strippers trying to work for a buck, right? So there's one girl called who I knew called Lonnie because I went to school with her. Right. So I took her outside with me, and I was like, "Kari, why?" Like I was like, "Lonnie, Ganti, how far, Ganti? Why are you out there dancing for cash?"
Hi ladies, how y'all doing?
Hi Xolie.
Hi guys. How are you? How are you? Wenkosi, how's the States? DC?
It's good. It's hot. Yeah.
Can we have Heat Olympics? Where is it hotter? How hot is it when you say it's hot?
I think this is average. Huh?
I was about to say, please don't say Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I actually had to pull out my phone because I think it's like 30 in Celsius.
Oh.
But that's not like, I think it's about average for summertime, I think.
Okay. Well,
It's hot.
We're hitting 40s this week. This coming week, so it's gonna be like super amazing.
We're clapping for you guys because
guys, it's gonna be
that's big.
It's gonna be boiling. Khetla, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How's your day been?
Oh, day's been good.
Yeah.
Spent with the little ones, the ankle biters and the teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. Oh, yeah. Going to the park. I think I last went to the park in 2018.
You are joking.
I'm serious. Like, I pass outside, I never go in. They're like, hey, we play basketball, we do this, we do that. City Park, Namhla. They were the ones busy there on top of the swings, and I said, how?
No, they need to allow the child in them to come out. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
As young as you feel, man. You're as young as you feel.
That's the thing. But yeah, it's been a good day overall. Now they're all chilling.
Ooh. And we've got a special edition today. Unfortunately, we don't have Nobu, but we have Nat.
Hey,
auntie.
The stand-in auntie.
Yes, the stand-in auntie for today. So guys, so Nat, do you want to do your joke?
Oh, you're making me start with the joke. Okay, before I start with the joke, because I know we've got like quite a packed episode, I just want to say I've really been enjoying the series and what you guys have been doing. I think it's so important, and I think I was talking to you, Xolie, when we're recording our Patreon, and I was saying that actually it's you don't need to be a mom to get something from it, and I think that's kind of what came across. And I wanted to read some of the comments that came through that I thought were interesting. So Ayanda Ncube was like, finally caught up to this and I loved it. Thank you for being so open, ladies. Sipho Mdao was like, thank you, ladies. This was a really great conversation. The last question, though, I think this was the first episode about where did you conceive?
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing that I feel like, I don't know if you guys are holding back. Or me, I said Leeds. Or me, I said, just at home. Or me, like...
Listen, clearly there was no holding back because here is evidence. There was no holding back on the night of conception.
I know, but I wanted to hear, like we're on a road trip, at the back of a car or something, like,
That's gonna be for you.
Yeah, definitely, probably yes.
I
don't know, but I find that those kind of situations, like when you're getting it on, like probably back of a car, road trip or something like that, it's all like pretty spontaneous and like spur of the moment kind of thing. Yeah. You're not, sometimes it does happen that you will conceive, but a lot of times it's just, the kick up.
I won't get any shit.
It's like you do not think later, but then usually nothing happens.
Nothing really happens.
Honestly, this is a wholesome episode.
Oh, sorry. Let me just read the comments. And then more was like great conversation, ladies. And then Wilmoy was like fails all around. What a lovely episode. Victoria say thank you, lovely conversation, so relevant to me right now. And there's a lot of that. And I know like we got some emails.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to read one actually, like from Wendy. Who said, I listened to, it's a bit of a long email. So I listened with interest to episode on motherhood. And she said, similar to Xolie, I have 2 kids, 19 years apart. My first is in Zim and my daughter here in the UK 9 years ago. Although I was in the rudeness of health, my pregnancy with her was termed geriatric, a term I despised. Back then, there was a lot of support given to moms by the government. During my 30-month mat leave, I joined Sure Start Bumps and Bundles group where friendships formed then are still stand today. We would sit and interact with our babies, discuss all sort of parenting and baby issues like pelvic floor, breastfeeding, when to start solids. So basically, she just goes on. She mentions how constructive this group was, how it was actually free. And I think what it demonstrates is that from having all these things that are free, baby sensory, baby massage, all as part of this Sure Start campaign, you now have to pay for all these things. Like, one class I took Lily to messy play where they were just messy play. That's all it was. Like, there's bits of broccoli here and there.
Sounds.
Edible paint, whatever it is. And that class was cost me like nearly £9 for like 45 minutes. So I think it was just quite interesting to hear like those experiences, but how politically things have changed for us as well. And I don't know what it's like where you are, Wenkosi, like in the States, in terms of are there free things that people like, not things, but free activities that
they're there, but a lot of them are paid, or it's like, what is it called? They term it like a contribution. So it's like, it's not a fixed amount, but there's more of the paid stuff. There used to be, what was this program called? Where like you can buy a package of things, like different activities. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but they recently said they'd gone out of business, I guess, with the pandemic. But there's a range of stuff, like the local libraries like will have kids time and then some activity there that's usually free, and then add on to the other more fancier titled things that you have to pay for.
No, for sure. And I think as well, what's the changing in government has also shown us is that there's so many centers that used to provide these free activities, but they're all shutting down. So there's a lot of stuff there, but it does become pricey. I saw one person doing like a baby sensory, which is things that I suppose termed important in child's development, but they are so pricey. They become so expensive as time, if you're doing them time and time again, and which is what you want to do. But yeah. So
and I think, and I think now with like social media, people will share these things and then they notice, it's getting popular. Let's make money of this thing, because you're getting a lot of more people interested in it anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there's loads of free resources on things like YouTube. There's some very creative people out there who will do things like, whether with just food and just kind of like spaghetti, like get kids to kind of play around with that and kind of develop the sensory, that baby sensory thing. So there's loads of stuff on YouTube, which you can, if you've got the time and the ability to do it at home. Otherwise, you let the child play, let them play outside, play on the grass, But yeah, so ladies, today I thought we would talk about, like, I listened with interest, on Father's Day, we had the guys take over for Girls and Skies, or the guys and Skies take over, where Ndaba, Lee, and who am I forgetting? Who's the fourth one? Gama. Came together, and they were talking about their experiences as fathers. So a bit of a similar setup in that 3 of them have children or kids, and one is soon to be father. But I listened with interest. Like, it was such a open and honest conversation. 4 men, again, different different geographical locations, different experiences with women, different experiences with raising children in relationships or raising children as co-parents. But it was an interesting conversation. There was a few things that they touched on that I wondered if we could just kind of go back and discuss. The first thing, the guys mentioned about how, you know, the difficulty it is in building that routine. So building a routine when you've got a child, how sometimes it can be challenging when you're on your own, because, you know, everything is just kind of falling on you to kind of, you get up in the morning, the feeding is on you, the feeding, the bathing is on you, doing my school drop-offs, picking up the child, coming back home, ensuring that they're fed, and so forth and so forth. So that was one of the boys, I think it was Lee, who kind of raised that, and it kind of touched me, or it interested me, because I even in a two-parent relationship, I still feel like there is a lot that is on me. So it was quite interesting to hear from a man's perspective that, guys, you know, this is actually quite tough. But I'm sitting here thinking, oh, but even when it's the two of us, it's still quite tough. You know, it's still, there's a lot of juggling. There's a lot of, sometimes, you know, you're up from 7 o'clock and Lee doesn't go to bed till about 8. So even within that period in time, it's quite hectic sometimes. Like the only time we get a little bit of peace is when Ulili is sleeping. So that's in a two-parent household. So I was wondering about your guys' experiences and just what your thoughts were on that. I'm like, you know, and Nat, I thought it would be quite interesting to hear your take on it, because we have had this discussion where you kind of be like, oh, you know, sometimes when there is a single parent, that parent will get a little bit more assistance. So I wonder if you can maybe start by expagurating on that. Expagurating on that point, because I just to give it a little bit more and then we'll hear from the ladies.
Okay, do you want me to go first?
Yes, if you don't mind.
So and obviously I'm really interested to hear what the others will say, because you guys actually have the experience and I'm just really an observer. I thought it was interesting, like the conversation that the guys had, but I think what that was, it kind of reflected the different configurations that people have, right? You know, like you were talking about two-parent household, single parents, but you know, they're also single dads, you know, so sometimes we don't even think about that conversation. But I think for me, what they were saying and also what you guys were saying, like it just makes you realize that it's you know, like I was listening to you guys, and I think I put a comment on the first episode. I was like, oh, this is the greatest contraceptive. Listening to this, because it ranges from God to like, whoo, this is a lot. So I think I can, and I see it from my friends and people that I have access to, just how much it takes, because you have to be present mentally and everything. And I guess what I will talk about is how I was raised, right? So I was raised by my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, and I grew up in a setup, and obviously this is like Zim, it's not the West, it's different, but I grew up in a setup where I had my grandparents, I had aunts, uncles who were like teens, whatever. So literally my upbringing, it was a village. It was so many people. It didn't fall on one person. It was I mean, obviously, like my grandmother was probably like the primary decision maker, but there was my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom, my aunt, uncle, and that's not even counting people who work, you know, helpers, people who work outside. So it was literally, I cannot imagine me being raised, and it probably would have been a lot more, maybe it would have been a better experience for me if you just have that one person or the two people. But it was literally like a whole, and that was just my story up until, you know, like all through school, all through whatever, right? And then looking now, like here, like where we are, the fact that for the most part, people are so inward facing, like people, like it's not as communal as home. We for the most part, you can't afford to have like a helper or a child minder sort of staying with you full time, and that's just not how we were raised. And I remember I was having this conversation with someone who was saying they don't think their parents could do what they are doing, because they were like, my parents, like we had like two maids at home, we had, you know, three or so people working, and literally most of my upbringing was those people plus parents plus grandparents plus this. So I think it's a lot right now. I mean, it's rewarding, but it really does sound like,
yes, but I'm wanting to hear you say with your chest that, oh, you know, I think that if you're a single mom, people will rally around you a lot more. And I just wondered, like, if that perspective, like for people, for example, in the diaspora, like, does that actually?
And again, this is an observation. It's not a lived experience. I think what I was saying, I think for the most part, obviously, if you are married or a couple or whatever, like if there's two of you, there's that inbuilt support. But what I was saying, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of explain it, was that I do sometimes think that people who are married or people who have their partners with them or whatever, right? Say if there's two of you and you guys have a baby, there's two layers of it, right? One is your actual relationship slash marriage. So people leave you alone for the most part. Think about it. Like if your friend gets married, right? Forget about even having a baby. You're going to kind of be more respectful just of their space in comparison to when they were on their own, right? When they're on their own, you could call up, you could be like, what's happening? Can I come over? Whatever, right? But when they are now sort of like married or whatever, you kind of have to respect that. So I do think that, so then if you put in a baby in that metrics, right? For the most part, I think people will be like, oh, just checking in, hope you guys are doing well, but expecting Gucci, you guys are a unit, you're fine. But I have seen situations where maybe someone is not married or whatever, but then, so people feel a lot more like, as Hambes, let's actually do something, you know, do you need help? Can I come over? You know, can I do this? But again, like I said, it's just an observation, and I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it rings true in that, Wenkosi, and I hope you can maybe come in and just share again your experiences. It's something that you have brought up before about how, you know, it sounds like you have just an amazing tribe around you. You had, or I mean, when in the middle of your studies and stuff like that, and it sounds like people just rallied around you. So do you think that your experiences are actually, do they transcend to others? Like other people who may be, you know, in a situation where they are on their own. Do you think that, or do you think yours is one in, I don't know, 10,000, 100,000, 1 in a million kind of situation?
Not even. I think it's almost like a 50-50 situation. It starts with who your tribe was even before you had the child. So you've had these people around, and then now there's a child and they understand the situation. They step up, they step in, they check in. But I will say this to Nat. What I have also learned from people that are married, a lot of the women still complain about having to do the bulk of the work, especially if they are a stay-at-home mom. There's that, even though a lot of us have left home and we're trying to do things differently, a lot of guys still have that mindset. So it's like, oh, your baby's crying, or the baby's crying munis. Whereas, you know, some people are like, okay, you know what, I'll pump when the baby cries, when the guy, you can feed the baby. So it goes both ways, but unfortunately, even in marriage, the woman is still doing the bulk of
of the work.
The work, because to them it's like, but if Umdana is crying, you can do this, or you can do, but at the same time, it's like, you can also do certain things. And then when we get to a point where, okay, the baby won't stop crying, let's maybe come together and figure out what's going on. But in terms of the single parent, I think it starts with who you had Vele in the beginning, and it continues from there. And you tend to keep those people around. I do also understand what Nat was saying, when people get married, it's almost like now they're in a different circle and then they're on their own. I've seen that too, but for the most part, it's the people that have been there before, and they'll tend to stick around.
So basically just...
Oh, sorry.
So basically just stick around, it's about ensuring that
Your
your foundation is set prior to having babies. And it kind of brings to light like Nat had an episode with Baba Patisa Nyati, and he kind of says, umntwana ngokamama kind of thing. And I think that kind of becomes diluted as time progresses, and umntwana ngokamama becomes 24/7, that you're the one doing everything, and yet making sure that everyone else is fed, making sure that the house is clean and stuff. And I think that is why a lot of women end up suffering from things like postnatal depression. So before your point, Nat, just hold on to it. Khetla, I'm wondering if you can just maybe, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do agree with what Wenkosi is saying. Like, if you have like your tribe beforehand, before baby comes, because I think like we all tend to sort of, I don't want to say develop, but we all make kind of decisions, at a certain age. And like, if we're all together and, there's some who've had babies before us and that kind of a thing, then they're also able to sort of say, oh, when I had baby, it was like this and that. And you can share stuff. And like, it's so, and they're also on hand to be there to help. Sometimes it's not that everybody has babies, but then you decide, okay, I want to have a baby, and they're there with you. I also have found that since moving this side, my kind of, again, I have people I know, and we've all been in touch, and we speak about experiences with our babies and how, okay, I'm pregnant and this is what I'm going through. So they're not, like, for me, mine has not been actually physical. They've been also virtual, and it's just like still being able to keep all of that in place and saying, yes, we are all doing this, and that's the sort of thing. Another thing that has helped as well, I suppose, is attending like the groups, like the Short Start groups and all that stuff. That also helps to build friendships. But for me, I personally wasn't that type of person, because at that time, like with Zach, at that time I was a student, so I was like getting back into uni work, and my studies. But like my friends then were quite like supportive, and they're like, oh, if you need anything. But yeah, it's just quite good. Yeah.
Okay. And Nat, or you're about to say something?
Oh no, just quickly. I think I wanted to say, Wuti, Wenkosi, you guys made the point that I was trying to make, that I was clumsily trying to make. Wuti, sometimes people who are married actually have more on them, like you were saying, because maybe their partner may not be pulling like the weight that they need to, and because you leave them to it. But I think the only way we can answer that question is, God, if you tell us like what, because we're all like making assumptions, but it's kind of like, because you were in a situation where like you were doing your own thing, whatever, and it's kind of like, then you got married, then you had a baby, like, because when God mentioned the point about, you have your tribe, but then people step up. Do you feel like anyone stepped, like, because I think that's the only way we can sort of maybe about that.
Yeah, I agree. The danger is, and again, it's something that we spoke about in the past as well, is the whole like stepping back from your friends once they go into like another chapter of their lives. Is I worry that sometimes for people who may be scared to kind of speak up and speak out that, you know, I'm struggling, it takes a lot of ownership on the person to be like, you know what, I'm taking charge of my mental health and this is what I need, and just to openly speak about it. Because sometimes when people step back, you also then worry, Uti, how do I bring this to light? Because everyone's just kind of, oh, things absolutely fine, you know, and people, there's that expectation that, oh, you should be fine, you know, and then you start worrying yourself, okay, so am I the issue when I'm not managing, if that makes sense? So I think sometimes when people are entering just different stages in their life, it's about also just continuing, like Wenkosi is saying, that tribe, continuing in the same way, because that person is still that person, you know. I'm still me at the end of the day. I'm still the person who wants to boogie till crazy o'clock and have my wine. I just, you know, need to think about, okay, but 7 o'clock Liana's gonna get up, so I can't have my babala. So things like that. So I think I say this to say that yes, step back, give them space, but also stay close. That makes sense. Step back, but stay close, because, you know, people need that ongoing support. And then so thank you for sharing your experiences, guys. And then the other thing that they spoke about was their experiences as I suppose children or toddlers, as babies. What they remembered of is, the question was asked, do you think your dad changed your nappy? Or do you think your father figure changed your nappy, or the person who was a father figure in your life? And it made me think, my situation, my mom had me, my dad wasn't in the picture already. So she had me and went to live with my uncle, her brother. And I can honestly say that he did not. Like, I don't think he changed. It's true. I don't think he did. And I think it was probably, I wish my mom was here to ask, so that she could share her experiences. But he is the sort of man who is like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you know, I mean, he'll kuza or do that sort of thing. But what are your ladies' experiences? Did you have, did your fathers or did your father figures, do you think that they changed your nappy?
I can say for sure, no, my grandfather did not. And I think it's that generation. And even then, I think if my own parent had been there, no, because it's that generation. My grandfather was good for, you know, good there from a distance, but that was about it. Yeah. So anything else, I mean, he wasn't even like, he's from that generation, good housework is women's work. So no. Mm-hmm. So a no here.
So, and okay, and then something else to think about is, would you expect the partner that you're with, should you have more children, would you want them, and that's when you have your babies, would you expect him to kind of really be that hands-on?
Yes. And I can, like, again, I keep saying, I feel like our generation and younger, I'm seeing a lot of things done differently. I could, you know, with my friends that have kids, you know, they are parenting. Oh, and I guess that's over here. I think it would be nice to have someone who is at home, because obviously their dynamic is a little bit different. Lapa, you don't have too much of a choice, because help is not easy to, like, house help is not easy to come by. So if I did, I would expect them to, because the child is ours, and we're both doing this. Yeah. So whatever it is, you're taking turns to change the baby, bathe the baby, all that stuff, we're supposed to be doing it together. And so, like I said, I think the question would be more for someone who is at home, because I think then we can kind of expect to see a different dynamic.
Yeah, good point. So we're going to come back to that. So you're going to come back to something that you said, but I'm interested to hear your opinions. Like, what what do you think your father figures, or did your father change your nappy?
No. I don't see it. So I don't. So interesting. So I don't know. Maybe he did, but because when I was born, like my parents lived together for a short while. But I remember like my father's sister was brought in, like she was like a late teen, so obviously she was brought in to kind of help. And then when I went to my grandparents, I don't think I cannot see Ukulu. I cannot I can't my grandfather, you know, doing any of that. My uncle's not. But for me, like when I was now like 4 5, like one of my uncles, like he was, because they were kind of youngish, he really did like he would be the uncle that takes you to the shops, that takes you, like he wouldn't mind being with the 4 5 year old, the towel, all that sort of stuff. But I don't believe they did. I could be wrong. But I know my dad, he's younger, not let me not put out business. One of the youngest kids was born in the 2000s. And I remember that he, for a long while, he was the one raising her, like from when she was a baby. So she must have been changing. But I think it shows that evolution.
Yes.
You know? And then if you know, if I were to have a child, yeah, I would want my partner to be involved, because for me, I also haven't, I love kids, you know, but my experience with kids is really from when they're like not even toddlers, but like maybe 5 onwards, you know, sort of thing. Like I think I'm always kind of like, I'm like the fun auntie, we're doing TikToks and stuff like that. So I actually don't have a lot of experience with babies. So it would be new for me. So I would be hoping to get as much support, whether we're figuring out together if we're both new parents, or if that person actually has had kids, like maybe they could be teaching me. So yeah.
Okay. And so both of you guys have raised something that I also wanted to kind of discuss, because there was a question asked from the guys that what is name one thing that you wish women knew? And one of the guys, Gamma, said that we are capable of looking after children or babies. And in my experience, like as a mom, I guess because we carry these children, there's almost a like, you know, we are so in touch with them. We know when they are not well, or do you know what I mean? You know that something is not right. You may not be able to pinpoint what it is, but you're like, no, there's something not right. So there's that kind of instinct, that's natural instinct that is that comes from us. But sometimes it seems that it can almost be a hindrance, because we are then becoming very possessive over the baby. Or I need to be the baby. I need to be the one who's bathing the baby. And all this. So it seems to me like it was a bit of a cry, like, guys, we know what we're doing. And sometimes you notice that even if you're both first-time parents, you always find that it's the mom who's doing most of the caring for the child. And I wanted to hear like your experiences as well, like what you guys' thoughts are in that. Like, do you think that women can become almost overprotective, or I don't know if overbearing, when babies are, especially when they're in their early weeks, early months, because they're still quite fragile, and you end up taking on a lot. And as a result, you find that many men kind of then step back. And then when you're now expecting the man to step forward, because they have just constantly been stepping back, like, what are you guys' experiences? Khetla, maybe you can start off with this one. Like, what do you think of the whole, do mothers in the first few weeks or first few months when a baby is born do too much and not let the father in?
I think yes. I think we do. Definitely, I can vouch and say I did.
Okay.
And yeah.
Why did you?
It was just that whole, like, I think at home with Liver's dad, there was that whole thing you would see, oh, mama's the one who takes care of the child. I mean, I'm the man, I go and do my thing, and then I come back home. And the whole thing, yeah, just that whole sort of thing. And like, I think also because I was breastfeeding, he didn't have that chance to, but then he also wasn't pretty much hands-on. And I think I just felt like, it's I'm super. Let me just get on with this. And then as he got older, then he kind of, but still, it was just, yeah. He'd always be like, go to your mom, like mom, I'm too lazy, that sort of a thing. But with Zach's dad, it was quite the opposite, because I wasn't breastfeeding, I was bottle feeding. So he would get up and do bottles at night. He would also do them during the day. Like, he would change him, he would bath him. He was pretty hands-on. And I think also because at the same time, so sort of a few months before, his daughter had a baby as well. So he was kind of getting into that groove of that, even though we didn't see the baby that much, because like I was quite advanced as well. So, but then he was like getting himself into it. So it's, yeah, he was quite like, yes, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And because I also would like, so I didn't take any sort of leave after having him. Kind of a week later, I was back in uni.
Wow. Yeah.
So he had to step up and yeah.
And did you trust him to? Or did you feel like, you have no choice, you just have to?
Yeah. I was like, I have no choice. Yeah. But I'd constantly be worrying, like, I'd be sending messages, have you fed him? Have you done his bottle? Have you, that kind of a thing. They were like, oh, he's fine. I was like, somehow, I don't know, kind of. And like, it'll be like, I get home, sort of like the first hour I get into or like when he comes to pick me up, because he'd be with him, I'd just be sitting in the back, like just looking at him like, oh my gosh, are you okay, baby?
You're alive. Well, that's the most important thing.
You're alive. He's just like they're like, okay. And I'm like, backing over him. And then I get into the house and like the first time I'm just like sitting there cuddling him like, oh my gosh, I've missed you so much, but are you all right? And then just, checking like, is he okay? And yeah, but it was that kind of a thing. Like, I don't know whether it for me, there was a bit of sort of, I was very attached to him and I just sort of didn't want to let him go. And I was like, oh, but then, yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Wenkosi, do you think, should you venture into motherhood again, do you think you'd be able to, now that you've had your firstborn and that, they are resilient little things, do you think you'd be able to let the father of the baby kind of do most of the caring? Like, do you think you'd be able to have that bit of a role reversal because you have that knowledge that, oh, you know what, actually, I got by with Oami.
Do you know what? There's like I said, because I said the child is ours anyway. But I think also you have to look at the person that you're dealing with. If the person is not forthcoming or not, when I feel like you shouldn't have to keep saying to somebody, hey, can you pick up the baby? Hey, can you do this? So they also have to kind of be pushing it a little bit to show, Oguchi, I'm trying to do this with you, or, but I hope that it would be somebody who would be hands-on and even just to be like, oh, okay, you're doing this here, let me get the baby. Or I feel like it's a big part of it depends on the person as well. But yes, I think we have that instinct, we're on autopilot. We're just doing things because somehow it's just coming to us. But if that other person is not saying, hey, let me do this, or just doing it, it's almost like we am Tuma, but it's like we should be doing this together.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And that's, I know for your future experiences, do you think you'd be able to, let your partner I mean, if you're both first-time parents, for example, you being a first-time mom, do you think that you'd be able to, like, I know it's a bit difficult to imagine, but bearing in mind everything that we have said, bearing in mind what the guys said as well, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think instinctively will happen? Do you think it's nurture, or is it just going to be something that, I don't know?
I think it's hard, Ancho. Like, you just don't know. But I mean, I want to think, yeah, I would. I yeah, because I think it gives them bonding time, and I think I've always been a fan of women who just up and like leave the baby for the weekend and just be like, you figure it out, and actually come back and it was fine. And it probably is hard even for the mom if initially, but because you need that, because you need to be able to recharge, to come back and be the best version of you with anything, right? So for me, instinctively, if you're asking me, if I'm quite honest, like Vanessa used to laugh at me because every time I would talk about having a baby, it would creep in my conversation about who I would leave the baby with. So it's like, how come your imaginary baby is always being left with people? Because I'd be like, I got a podcast to do, girl. I got things to do. so instinctively, but I don't know. I may turn into, one of those moms who I don't want to be, but I may become them. But yeah.
No, it's interesting because, like, I guess we all have an idea of the type of mom we want to be, and then you are the mom. Like, you're talking about leaving your child for the weekend. I haven't left Lily for more than a few hours yet, and it's probably because of my experiences of living with English is Englishing, of leaving Tamara. I left Tamara when she was 18 months, and I tell you, it's something that I wish to God my uncle and aunt or people around me at that time would ask me, like, how has that affected you? Because I probably am very overprotective of Ulili now, and probably at times when I probably don't need to be, but I don't know what it is. It's just I don't know, I have this fear, and I can't even explain what the fear is of. Like, I know that she's perfectly safe, but there's something, like, and I haven't shared this before, but I remember the last day I left Tamara, and she was about 18 months old. And even just me saying bye to her, I didn't know what I was saying bye to. It wasn't like a bye, I'll see you tomorrow. I knew that I wouldn't see her tomorrow because I flew from Harare, so I was spending a night or a couple of nights in Harare, then flying. So it wasn't even that, but there's just this whole sadness around it. And I remember we were about to drive, so I gave her a hug. She was sleeping on her tummy in the bedroom, and I woke up, I gave her a hug, and I put her back to sleep. Then I walked to the car, got into the car, and then sat in the car. And then we were just about to drive off. I was like, oh, I forgot something. And I hadn't forgotten anything, but I got out of the car and went back, and she was up at this time looking for me. And she was crying, and I picked her up, and I just held her in my arms. And I honestly, I feel like something broke in me that day. And there's times when I think of that when I am leaving with Lily. Oh my goodness, like, I'm getting all emotional, but it's not meant to be an emotional thing. But I guess I say this to say that it'll be interesting. We have this on recording anyway. It'll be interesting to see how you are, like, after saying, like, oh, I'll be that mom who will leave. I think I would have wanted that for myself as well. Like, I would have wanted to be that mom who's able to go away for a weekend. I definitely need to go away for a weekend, but there is something that I can't break, and it's just something that it's probably not very healthy for me as well. But anyway, what about you guys? Like,
Can I just say, no, thank you for sharing that, because like you haven't shared it, and it's quite it makes a lot of sense. We can cut this out, but I remember like when Tamara joined you. And we always used to say, like, we would say, Colin's so protective of Tamara. Like, Tamara was like, what, 16 or whatever at the time, whatever. And then Colin would be like, if Tamara's like, I want to go to the store, she'd be like, I'm coming with you. But it makes sense. And I think maybe there's room for us to even actually have another discussion with people who leave their kids or send their kids back home, like for real reasons, like childcare is so expensive. There's people like who send their kids home for 2 to 3 years and then the kids come back. But if you talk to them, they're like, yeah, I save money, but so it's our community. It comes back to the whole Zim thing, right? Because you had to leave to make a better life, but you didn't really understand. Like you're saying, you didn't understand. I remember I always say, like, when I left Zim and I had I was not responsible for anything, but I didn't understand that I would, like, this is going to be year 20 for me here. I didn't understand.
Hey, I was close. Yes, hey.
Yeah, I didn't understand that I'm leaving and possibly, I thought maybe I'll come back in a few months. So, no, thank you for sharing that. And I think it'll be interesting to hear other people who've had similar experiences of being apart from their children for
a period in time. And is this something that, if you were ever, like, if things got really, really bad, like, Khetla, I know your babies are not quite babies, but they're a bit older. But Wenkosi, your one is still very much in her early years. If things got, like, there was like, oh, I'd bring her home, would you?
I have a very, very big fear of ever having to be in that situation. And I think part of it goes back to me having grown up with Gogo. So obviously I don't remember at what point my mom left and stuff like that. But for me, that is big. It's like, I want to be there. I want to experience things. I feel like she's at a point where she needs me. She's still learning. So me having to be away from her, like, I've sat and thought about it. I'm like, okay, I'm here. And unfortunately, these are things that we have to think about. I'm always like, okay, if something happens to me, who's going to raise my child? And if I tell you how anxious that thought is for me, and you pick a couple of people and then you have this whole thing. So I fear if I ever had to do that, I would not be okay. But I do have people, my mom is there, my sisters are there. Then these are not people that I'd hold. And so that would make things even more challenging, like if I had to pick someone who's at home. But then also someone who would, okay, my child will be okay, and things like that. It's a lot, because obviously nobody's going to raise your child exactly the way you do. And just thinking about that, it's such a big, big decision. But this is something I've thought about, and it's like something very difficult for me to think about, if I even had to be away from her for a while. I don't know how I would do, and it would also depend who she's with.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. Khetla, I know your situation is also a bit unique in that I think your parents, is it your mom and your dad, had looked after your babies from, how old were they? So what has that been like for you?
It's been something else. It's been an experience, because growing up, it's kind of always been my parents, and then we've had the helpers. Family was there, but never really involved. So my parents have been heavily involved in raising us. And then when we moved back at Xolie, so I moved first, and then my siblings came after, and it was just us. So when my younger siblings came over this side, it was just my young sister and I in Xolie. And then had the kids. When the kids came along, when I came over Level was 2. He was just about to turn 2. And like you had that same thing of leaving. And he was just like, I'm going to leave this little baby. I'm leaving with my sister. And it was like, okay, yeah, it's fine. But it just didn't feel right. Yeah. Like he was there with me all the time. And even though his dad was there, sometimes his dad wasn't there, but he was a constant and I was a constant in his life. And then all of a sudden, like, I wasn't there. That for me was just a lot. And coming over and then kind of getting like reports of, oh, he's doing well, he's growing, he's starting, like he had teeth already, he's teething, he's lost some teeth, started all those milestones. I missed them. And he was like, okay, I'm trying to get a better life for him and he's going to come here. You know, when you plan something and say, okay, by the time he's like 3, 4, he's going to be here. He didn't get here until he was 8. And so it was just a whole lot of things. And for me, it was like, is my son even going to remember me? Will he still know that I'm his mom? Like he knew that I was his mom. And luckily, like with my facts, when my late brother went back home, because he was here, and he went back home, he stayed with him for some time. And so he would like tell him about me, and like there were photos and, you know, all that stuff. And I'd constantly call, but it's just not the same. And yeah, like when I had Zach, it was also that part of that thing who would say, I don't want to miss a thing, because like with Level, I missed a lot. And so I was pretty comfortable with the first 2 years. And then afterwards, I was like pretty lost because, yeah, I have an 8-year-old, but I don't know what happens after 3 or after they turn 2 and all those things. And so like my parents were quite supportive, like, because Mama would visit and come up north and that kind of a thing. And then, when Zach turned 2, we moved down. That was after we relocated and everything. So we came down and moved into the parents' house. So then their bond with their grandparents strengthened. And I was happy about that because I never had that bond with either side of my grandparents due to like being in different countries. Never got to see them that much. So now they have this thing that I never got to have, which I'm like, I'm here for it. And the attachment is like so real because like I said, I think the last probably first or second episode where there was a time my parents were like, they're going back home. Right. And it was like, I am going back with them. And like, no word of a lie. I was just okay. But in that okay, I was dying inside. Like I went back to my flat and I like cried. I never took it to my brother, my cousin brother downstairs. I called him and I was like, you know, the thing is like, if Mama go back, I'm happy for them to go back. But I know that Zach is going to want to go back. Level, maybe not so much, but Zach definitely. And he's like, but Zach is your last born. I'm like, they're both my babies. He's like, how are you going to cope? I'm like, I'm not going to cope. But then my thing is knowing that he's there with them, and it's not that he's seen them for the first time. He's been with them since he was 2. So he's had like 8 or 9, basically they say it's 9 years of being with them. It's different. But I was still like, now I'm going to miss like his formative years, whereas I've had Level's formative years with him. Now I'm going to miss Zach's. You know, I was just like, this is, So it's been a bit of a, and I don't know if I would, it's really hard. I was like, I don't know if I can, deal with it, honestly.
Guys, it's just a roller coaster of emotions. Like, honestly, there's times you question, are you doing the right thing? Do you do the right thing? But one thing that I have appreciated like recently is, I don't know if you've read, oh my God, you guys should read Viola Davis's Finding Me. It is amazing. And she talks about how, she says something along the lines of, when you can recognize that your parents did the best for you with what they had, is like, you know, you get to a different point of realization or something along those lines. Don't quote me, but something along those lines. And that is something that has given me a lot of comfort in the last few years, because I feel like there's a lot of healing that needs to happen with my loss of raising Tamara, and hence this motherhood episode where I'm like, gosh, I'm a mother again, but I don't really, like you're saying, Khetla, the picking of the milestones, and I have no idea. It's such hard work. But just to kind of move things along, just to something a little bit more lighter, and I'm just aware of our time as well. But what are the great things of being a mom, apart from the process of being one, of getting to be a mom, which Natasha can elaborate on a bit later. But what are the great things about being a mom?
I guess for me, it's seeing my little people that I have co-created with someone else, and how it's amazing how much of they have their own individuality and their little personalities, and how they're growing, and how I see myself and I see like their fathers, and I see like some of my siblings in them and their behaviors and the way they are. And it's just like,
it reminds you of them.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and how they're growing up to, the things that they like to do and just the way they are.
Yeah.
And I suppose my way of parenting them as well. I'm trying not to parent the way my parents parented me. Yeah. And although I'm still very strict because they're boys, and I suppose if they're still girls, I'll still be strict. But like, I always count my lucky stars that I've got boys, because but it's just that thing. It's just like, oh my gosh, I created people. Have you seen my people?
That is nice. Yeah. How about you, Wenkosi? What's great about being a mom to a woman?
I think it's just watching them grow into this person. Obviously, I feel like they're born with such big personalities, but they keep showing brighter and brighter every day. Learning all the things that they like, watching them go from, oh, I like this color, now I don't like this color, those kind of little things. And then obviously they're growing up in a world with so much technology, and they're now telling you, all the things that they learn or random things that they pick up. And it's just fascinating to watch them develop into these big people. Yeah.
Okay.
And like Khetla said, seeing okay, she has a little bit of this person and a little bit of this person, and overall they're their own person, but a combination of different people.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Nat, do you want to tell us what's fun about
What's fun about what?
What does parenting look like, or what are you looking forward to?
Thank you, Wenkosi. That's a nice save, because this woman was coming with some other. She was coming left field. Listen, I hope it happens for me. I pray it does. I just think it's cool to have like your own little person, like your own inbuilt, hopefully like your inbuilt buddy who
best friend
hopefully always have your back. Not to say it's easy or whatever, but it's just like, oh, this world is so tough, people are so fickle. Like I need my own cheerleader. So I've decided, since, because I'm a fan of the boys. No. like just your own cheerleader. I think that's nice. But yeah, obviously not too. I know it's not a walk in the park, but I just think kids are so cute. Like their energies, like if you've got bad vibes, they just won't rock with you. Like they're so honest.
Yep.
And I just like that. And I just like when you see a child's personality shining through, and it's like, and sometimes it's like their own personality. And that's why I don't know, that's why I'm just like, oh wow, look at God. Because you see like people, and they're like, this child isn't it's not necessarily the nurturing. This is just how they came, like with their own thing. So I just think young people are awesome. So yeah, whether it happens or whether I'm like just an auntie or whatever, I think that's what I like. Just
auntie, yeah,
to shine through.
Yeah, no, awesome, guys. For me, it's pretty much what you guys have said, and then some, because it's just amazing to look at your little person and just be like, wow, you literally came from me, you know, came from within me, and it's just amazing. And I look at Tamara, and she's a good friend, you know. We have good, open, honest conversations, and you know, she tells me where I'm wrong. This generation 2000s, you know, they don't listen. But it's just nice to kind of also be able to parent in the way that I suppose my mom would have wanted to parent me in my formative years as well. So I'm just kind of putting that back into her, like just really putting a little bit of wisdom, like, you know, it's okay to make mistakes, and I've got your back. And so I like that aspect. Then I like with Ulili, even when I'm trying to teach her, so the word of the week, the word of the month is mama. And she is going on about dada and baba and everything. But you know,
there are people, they can't be told anything. So good luck with that one.
No.
Good luck with that one. You'll be surprised. The first word will be Tamara.
Yeah. Wow, I'll be so happy. Like, oh my goodness. But no, so you know, it's just all love. I look at them both, and I just can't even imagine the amount of love that I have for them both. So it's they're just nice to be around. Not always, but yeah, sometimes it's just nice. Yeah. But yeah, no, guys, I think we will wrap it up there. A different story.
Can I do my story?
Okay.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to hear a true story, right? So last week Saturday, I was at this like real live party, right? Like there was like liquor overflowing and all that stuff, right? And
I was like, this type of party. Look at the way she's grinning.
I know, like, woman just celebrating.
And this party, you know, there were about, I don't know what the PC word, there was like 5 or 6 strippers trying to work for a buck, right? So there's one girl called, who I knew, called Lonnie, because I went to school with her, right? So I took her outside with me, and I was like, Kari, why? Like, I was like, Lonnie, Ganti, how far, Ganti? Why are you out there dancing for cash? And then Lonnie, so she looked at me. She's like, Natasha. She was like, what would you do if your son's at home crying on the floor?
I saw this coming.
He's hungry. And the only way to feed him
was to sleep with a man for a little bit of money because his dad is gone. I ain't got a job now. I ain't got a job now. So for you, it's just a good time, but for me, it's what I feel like. Do you guys know that song? Wenkosi, you clicked on it.
I know it.
I know the song.
This is worse than an Audrey joke. I thought you had at least like an Audrey type joke. This is terrible.
So bad. It's in the same group as Indorda.
Indorda.
Indor.
What was the part where you were like, hold up?
Yeah, you were like, honey, why are you doing this? And then it's like, okay, and then the pause.
so strange. They'll see you last. You say, oh, what would you do?
Like,
and I was cracking up. Cracking up. I see me, I'm the fun auntie. I'm available to do TikTok.
Don't let Natasha babysit, because what is this?
What is this? Yes. It will be like me, because like it runs or something like I started to do pole classes.
Oh.
And somebody said to me, it's weird because we tell people, they're like, pole as in Ipoliana, Oyaspinanje. Are you naked? Are you trying to be a stripper? Is this? I'm like, can I not do this for fun? Of all the things you could think of doing.
Would you get one in your room? Or?
I would. If I could, I would definitely. But I can't. But I would.
Can we talk about baby making? Because you guys.
No, because we're still waiting for the next chance. Thanks.
Honestly, before Natasha railroads this into another conversation,
sorry.
So we're going to end here. Where can people find you guys? Khetla, go for it.
Oh my gosh. So I can be found on Twitter. Khetla is my username. Yeah. Gosh, Twitter still Khetla, but like Jovial Manube. Yes. That is where I can be found on Twitter. Instagram, Khetla AJ. But it's there's not much there. You just see post of things that just fascinate me.
Fine. Wenkosi?
At Wenkosi on Twitter, unless if you want to see pictures of my child every day. Instagram is the same.
Next.
At Malaika Diva on Twitter.
Instagram, get your personal number.
My Cash App is the # Malaika Diva. Okay. So I only have Twitter and Cash App. Cash App # Malaika Diva. Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate this conversation. One more thing from Nat.
Oh, we have to announce that this is we're gonna go on a break.
Oh, yes. So we are going on a break, guys. Nat wants to do hot girl summer in the heat.
Allow it, please. Those temperatures are giving. So
40 degrees plus. So yeah. So we're going on a break, guys.
Yeah.
We'll be back. We'll be out with our regular Patreon. But this is our very last episode for this season.
Yeah, so there'll be more Patreon stuff. So do join us on Patreon. And then you'll get more context as to what's been happening behind the scenes. And need to reboot, and then we'll be back. But we'll be on Patreon.
Yeah. Lovely. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Hi family, Salwanani. You've just been listening to a snippet of our very latest Patreon members only Girl in Skies episode. If you would like to listen to the full episode, head on over to patreon.com/Girl in Skies. That is patreon.com/Girl in Skies. You can also access this via any of our social media. Patreon is just one of the ways that we are keeping your podcast sustainable. That means more episodes, more conversation, and more of our community growing. So we'd really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Siyabonga.